Hi, David Taylor or Mr Pelargonium back with another one of my video blogs for the Pelargonium and Geranium Society. Today is about regal cuttings, so let's get going with it. Today I'm going to do regal cuttings. You may remember about a month to 6 weeks ago we actually cut back my regals, and some have put on more growth than others, as with all plants. They all grow very differently. Some have grown absolutely huge. I mean, I've got this one over here. This was the original sort of best regal in the show plant. You may remember I completely cropped it back, and it's grown now to a stage where it's growing on to almost back where it was in the first place, and there is some good cutting material on that. It's a bit sort of large and overwieldy, so we're going to use another plant to give an easier indication of where it's grown through and how you can cut off from the bits that have grown out from where we cut back. This is actually one of my seeding regals, which I actually has given a name. It's Gosborough Firecracker it's going to end up being. And this has got 3 or 4 good cuttings on it. So I want to get those off. You can see the stem that I actually sliced off down here. And what's happened is we've had 2 side shoots grow up. We've had this long one here, and I want to use this for the cutting material. There's a smaller one underneath which is just begun to break actually. So basically what I'm going to do, where the big stem was cut off and this side shoot here has grown out, I want to take a bit of that base out, and I'll use that very much as sort of the rooting sort of area for it. So I'm going to end up slicing a bit of the underneath stem off. Now this very much is a plant that I really want to use as stock material. I will not be able to ultimately use this as a plant for exhibition or anything like that, because it's really going to get quite butchered up. But this cutting process, which we did about a month, 6 weeks ago, has enabled good, strong, non-flowering side shoots to grow out, which is what you want from regals. Okay, so hopefully you can sort of see in here now. I've repositioned the camera so that we can see what's going on. Right, so this stem here, we can see that this is the stem that I cropped, and I cropped it just about there, just in there, and that's made a side shoot really spring out here, and this is a brilliant non-flowering side shoot. And basically what I'm going to do, I'm going to cut into the stem, because I want to get the base of that stem, and I'll use that as the bottom of the cutting, because that'll have a lot of hormone in where it's breaking out from that stem. It's going to have a lot of hormone in there. That'll really should root relatively quickly. It's relatively strong. It's green, but it's going to have a little bit of sort of, you know, hardness to it. Now I've sterilised my knife, so I'm not too overly concerned. I'm just going to slice through, and there we are. So we've got a neat sort of quadrant here. I've taken a little bit of the stem, that main stem, and this is really a really good cutting. Strong, it's very strong, it's very robust. It's what I call semi-hard. It's non-flowering, no sign of any flower on that. And what I will do now, I've got a little quadrant of the base stem on there, and I will cut that off, trim it round so that it's below where it's shooting out from. And that's exactly why we do this cutting back with the regals, because regal, an ordinary sort of sappy regal cut, if I say cut that above there, it would almost be too sappy. It just wouldn't root. I mean, it might on the odd occasion, but the best ones are going to be where you can get a bit of a strong growth to it, and that's what we're looking for. Now, a bit further up, I will take that leaf off because you want about 1 inch or 2 centimeters of compost. Right, now I've got another one here, exactly the same situation. It's a break that's cut right through. There's the base of the cut, and there's the side shoot that's grown out from that. And there we are, doing exactly the same as what was on the other one. So here we are, it's another cutting, almost exactly the same, with a little quadrant of the base stem. So I've got another one here, which is a sort of more, if you like, conventional cutting. And that's a more conventional cutting. That's just a long shoot at the base of the plant. So that's a bit more of a conventional cutting, but I've gone down fairly deep. I will almost certainly take that leaf off. It's not breaking very well, so and then I'll plant it in up to about the level of this, what's that, 3rd leaf down. But again, I've gone down fairly deep on this one. And that's going to, again, be a relatively sturdy cutting. That's sturdy. Okay, so I've prepared a couple. This one, I mean, you can see here clearly what we've sort of done. We've got this little quadrant of main stem here, and I just like doing it this way because there is so much natural hormone in the base of this, so where it's broken here, and so this is why I do it this way. I find that Regal cuttings root very quick, and all I'm doing is trimming back where this little new stem has broken out from the original base stem. So I'm now just slowly taking little bits off right up to the base of where it's grown out from. This enables the Regal cuttings to root really quickly. Now I'm going to snap that off and snap that leaf off as well, and that's going to leave me with a really good cutting. I've got about 1 inch there or 2 centimeters to be pre-pressed into the compost. Just going to take these stipules off that are on the little stem break that's a bit higher up, and that's ideal. Now, the one thing I did mention before last time when I was doing my zonal cuttings is the exception that I do use a hormone rooting powder. This, as much as anything else, can be used as a sort of fungicide as well, and it just helps give them a little bit of a help with fungal issues, and it will help as well promote a sort of a good base to the roots as they develop. I sometimes use a gel. On this occasion I've got some powder. It doesn't really matter which, but there we are. That's the 3. I've done 3. I've done the other 2 while I've been waiting. Now, just a bit of debate over whether I'm going to leave this big flashy leaf here. I will probably leave it. It's not so big. I had a really big one on this one and I cut that off because you don't want it to transpire so much that it's going to be really struggling. But I'll leave that one on. And it's just then a question. I've got 3 little pots here that much like the zonal type cuttings, just a little bit of a hint to help it go through. And in it goes. Just press it through. They're relatively stiff and sturdy. Just pack it in, and there it is. Done. Job done. And that's what I'll do with all 3 of them. Okay, so there we are. I've done all 3 of those now. They're all in a little saucer. Now what I tend to do, I use a very moist sort of seed compost. The same mixture as I use for my zonals, the 50-50 mix of a general compost with a fine perlite, and I actually ensure that is really very sort of quite wet, but you're putting it in there, but it'll trap a little bit of air in there, and so I do not water initially with the first sort of mix there that's there. I just literally put the cuttings in that, and I don't water them because there's plenty of moisture to keep them ticking over initially in the wet sort of compost that I've made there. It's a similar thing though, a shaded place under a bench initially, and then after a week or two gradually introduce them to a bit more light, give them a little bit of water. Will take a little bit longer, probably up to 4 weeks to a month for Regals and that sort. Take a little bit longer, so but you should get a good strong root using the method that I've done there. Now that's it. I mean, that's the method I use for all sort of Regals, Angels, the unique types and those sorts of plants, and I find that pays dividends. I find that I get a very good success rate with the plants. It does require a little bit of forethought, which is what we did before when I cut them back, because then you're going to get the side shoots developing, which produces this material. So that's what I do. And so that's Regal cuttings really in a nutshell. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. I've got plenty coming up, so I'll see you again very soon.